I'm the associate pastor and music minister here at the church, and I've been tasked tonight to open us up in prayer, which we'll do here in just a moment. I have one note that I would like to give to our candidates. We are a Bible-believing church who completely believes in the supernatural power of Jesus Christ and His prophetic word, of which there's a copy of underneath each one of your seats. Make vain campaign promises at your own peril tonight. I'm just teasing. But we're here tonight for this Berkeley County Sheriff's Forum. Looking forward to what each one of these men have to say. So let's begin in prayer tonight. Heavenly Father, Lord, we lift up your name tonight. Father, there are some in this country who believe that church and politics should be as far away from each other as they need to be. We don't believe that. God, we know that you ordained government, that you created government. And Father, we pray that you would help us to vote our values. Guide us, and lead us, and be with everyone in here tonight, Lord. We give you all praise, honor, and glory in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Now it's my distinct opportunity and privilege to introduce to you Mr. Bill Bates.
Thank you. My name is Bill Bates, and I'm the chairperson for the Goose Creek 912. I want to thank Cardinal Lake Baptist Church, who have been very supportive in helping us to inform the public, which is about what's going on. So maybe you can make an informed decision when you walk into that voting room. Now, having said that, if you would all please rise, we're going to follow the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will read. Those of you who are veterans may salute, and that's by law. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, having said that, I'd like to introduce our moderator tonight, who is former Dorchester County Sheriff, Mr. Ray Nash.
Thank you so much, Bill, and let me just reiterate thanks to Harbor Lake Baptist Church and the Goose Creek 912 for putting this forum together. And thank you all for coming out and be a part of this. This is very, very important. I'm sure you realize that or you wouldn't be here, because not only is it very, very important that the citizens get out and vote and vet the candidates properly. And we've got a crowded field of candidates for a very, very important position. So not only are we grateful that these men have thrown their hat in the ring to step forward to present themselves as candidate for sheriff, and it's been a very intense time for them, very intense campaign season, especially being this special election. Everything's compressed, and they're pushing hard. They got a lot of demands on their time, got a lot of demands on their family right now. But also thank you for coming out to take the time to properly vet these candidates. I can tell you from experience, I've run for sheriff, and I've also run in a very crowded field of candidates before, and your voice can get lost if the good people of the county don't take the time to come out and listen carefully to these candidates before you make your all-important choice in the voting booth. I don't have to tell you how important the role of sheriff is. I understand that, you know, when you think about politicians, you think about mayors, you think about governors, you think about county council, you think about congressmen or state representatives or whatever. All those positions are incredibly important. We all know that and recognize that. The position of sheriff is very important for a number of reasons. It's got a powerful constitutional position, and of course the sheriff is your chief law enforcement officer of the county that is concerned with crime and victims of crime and safety and health and other issues that are there. As a matter of fact, I understand we even had a crime wave here recently in Berkeley County. It started right here in this building, from what I understand. There was a burglary this morning here inside the premises, and they've been working hard to get everything ready. Am I correct, Bill? And get ready for the
1 minute response time.
1 minute. For me or for them? Oh, 1 minute response time in responding to the crime. Now I got it. I thought you meant 1 minute response to them. Okay, very good. Kudos to you. Got to share something. Now I get it. All right, let me dispense with all that. We're going to read these rules, so you know the rules of engagement here that these candidates are going to have to deal with. All right, first, we collected questions from y'all as audience members, and we've had a screening committee that's been looking at these questions to make sure that the questions are of general interest to the audience. So it wouldn't be a question that might be of interest to somebody or even directed at a particular candidate. We tried to get questions that were generic enough to be of interest to all of y'all here. And we have chosen 12 questions that are in this box over here that I'm going to draw out of at random when we start the question and answer portion. Now, we're going to assign these candidates to 4 different groups. Now, I believe last count we had 13 of y'all up here. So we're going to do 3, 3, 3, and 4 as our 4 groups of candidates. And it's going to work this way. I'm going to pull out a question. Well, let me back up. First thing's going to happen, they're going to have a 15-second introduction. We're not giving them much time, y'all. There's a lot of candidates up here. Time is of the essence. We're going to push this thing really, really hard. Each one will get a chance to introduce themselves, give you a bullet point or two about their career, their experience, what have you, in 15 seconds, all right? Then we're going to start the question. I'm going to pull out the first question, and I'm going to read it to the first person in group 1, all right? That person is going to have 60 seconds to answer that question. That does not give them much time to formulate a response, and some of these questions are liable to be very in-depth. So you're going to see how well they think on their feet and how quickly they can formulate, their responses to you, so to put them under a lot of pressure. We've got timekeepers up front here. When they have 15 seconds left on the clock, they're getting the yellow signal, all right? So start wrapping up your thought and bring the thing to a conclusion. At the 60-second mark, you get the red flag and a little bit louder. There you go. Get that message as well, and that'll be the end of your time, and we'll pass the mic to the next person in that group. So, first group gets, all 3 of them get the first question. Then we'll draw a second question for the second group, third question for the third group, fourth question for the fourth group. Now the reason for doing that is we found from doing these forums in the past when there's a lot of candidates, all their answers start sounding alike after a little while, right? Because they're all professional law enforcement officers, they've got great experience, and you would expect that. So we're trying to break it up, and this is the idea that we came up with to do it. We're going to go through that first round of questions. Then we're going to go through a second round of questions. Be the same format. I'll choose a different person to start out of each group. We'll go to the second person. We're going to do that, how many times we say we do that? 3 times, 4 times. We've got 12 questions total. How many times that comes out to be? 12 questions total. It's hard to do math when you're up here talking. We're 12 questions total. How many, Bill? Oh, we got another candidate. Please come up and join us for school. Very good, very good. Come on up. Thanks for coming and being part. Grab your chair over there. Not that one, that's mine. That was mine. There you go. Very good. Right. Come up here. Mr. Smalls, come up here up front. Okay. Go get it figured out. Okay.
I thought I had 2 chairs.
Here's the kicker, and this I think this is a very clever way of doing this. After we have gone through those 12 questions, we're going to have one final round of questions. And in the final round of questions, they get to choose which question that was asked to one of the other 3 groups that they would like to answer. So if they're sitting there as a candidate thinking, I wish I got a chance to answer that question, they'll have a chance to answer that question. They'll get to choose that in the last round. At the very end of it, we'll give each one of them another 15 seconds to make any closing statements they would like to make, and that'll conclude the event. The only other additional caveat is this may not happen, kind of hope it doesn't happen, but if it does, it does. If one candidate in their response challenges the record of one of the other candidates, we're going to give that candidate a 30-second rebuttal time to respond, should that happen. Let me see if I left out anything here before we finish. Bill? Oh, applause. Thank you very much. I'm going down my list. We would like you to hold your applause until the end. Tight schedule again. We know you got your favorite candidates. I'm sure they're all going to get great questions. So don't be offended if they don't clap for you, all right? Well, I'm asking them not to. So we can just, in the interest of time, give them as much opportunity to respond to the question. We do not allow, they can challenge a record, we do not allow personal attacks on anybody up here. Okay, I'm going to be in charge if anything's get out of order, and also we would ask you that you would take your, place your phasers on stun and your cell phones on vibrate, if you would, so we don't have interruptions during the event. The candidates have told me that they're going to make their best effort to hang around afterwards. If any of you do have any questions that we didn't get to for whatever reason tonight, because time is limited. Good? Good, Bill, anything else?
It'll be on YouTube.
Going to be on YouTube, so we're filming this, it's going to be on YouTube, so that's going to be excellent. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with our 15-second introduction, and I'm just going to start here. You come up, I'm going to give you the mic, and as soon as you're done, if you would pass it to the next candidate.
My name is Will Rogers. I'm 54 years old. I've been in law enforcement for 32 years. The last 25 on the road in Berkeley County. I'm a lieutenant currently with the Sheriff's Department. I was a state trooper and a month-long police officer in between. Also did 4 years in the United States Marine Corps prior to that. And I'm a resident of Berkeley County since I was 2.
Excellent. Just pass it for you.
Hang on just a second. Press the button.
Maybe the light is red. Just push the power button one more time. Just like that. Okay. Sorry about that.
Good evening, I'm Rick Olick. I'm the current Chief Deputy of the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office. I've served the citizens of Berkeley County since 1986 and have had a broken tenure with the Sheriff's Office. I currently run the day-to-day operations of the entire agency, and I'm the candidate who can lead from day one. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chad Caldwell. I'm the current Chief of Police at Los Corners. I served at SLED for 20 years, then went to North Charleston and became the Chief of Police there. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
I'm Brian Adams. I got 23 years of law enforcement experience. I worked my way up to the rank of lieutenant in the city of North Charleston. I want to thank you for all giving us this time tonight.
My name is Dan Isgett, and I want to start by saying that I'm an unashamed Christian, and I'll never back down from that testimony. I've only got 15 seconds. I cannot touch my record in 15 seconds and cover everything. I have a newspaper out here, Dan Isgett for Sheriff's, my website, and my Facebook page. Please look it up for me. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. I'm Dwayne Lewis. I have 30 years experience in law enforcement at the state, county, and city level. I'm for professional law enforcement, ethical law enforcement. I'm a graduate of FBI Command College, and I have numerous executive management experience. Thank you.
Thank God was ahead of my life, and thank you for coming out. My name is Omar Brown. I came at the request of the late Police Chief Ruben M. Greenberg in 1996, when I graduated from the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy. I won't bore you with all the accolades and all of that stuff. But what I will do is this. Chief Greenberg trusted me enough to represent him twice with the President of the United States. That speaks volumes. I will bring you back to Berkeley County Sheriff's Department that will have the honor, distinction, and trust and service as those who know of the Charleston Police Department once had that kind of pride. We need the service. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Anthony Smalls. I'm 59 years old. I'm a graduate of Baptist College of Charleston. Came on to the Sheriff Department in 1989. Next month will be 26 years I've served in that capacity. Also served 33 years with the Air Force Reserve. And I've got approximately 4 years, 7 months experience in investigation. I know the in and outs of the Sheriff Department. Thank you.
My name is Jerry Merrithew. I'm a graduate of Berkeley High School. I'm a resident of Goose Creek. I have 30 years law enforcement experience. I realized that my experience was both locally and internationally, and I brought that to the table because I know I can do a good job for you. I know that I can protect what means most to you: your family, your homes, and your property. And I got the experience to get the job done. Please go to my website, jerryforsheriff.com.
Thank you. My name is Calvin Champ Clark. I retired last year, 29 years at SLED. And first of all, thank you, Mr. Bates and the church, Mr. Nash, candidates for showing up, and all of you. You're here because you care about your community. I want to rebuild the public trust. I want to restore confidence in the sheriff's office, and I want to provide professional leadership for the sheriff's department in Most Corner. I can be your professional leader as your sheriff. Thank you.
Robert Bittner, 15 seconds is not going to be enough. BittnerForBerkeley.com, Bittner for Berkeley on Facebook. Probably the candidate that's packed the most amount of time in my 15 years with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office, bringing with it a degree in criminology and pre-law, which is, I believe, essential to modernizing our agency and bringing it into the year 2015 with connecting, and also with connecting community. BittnerForBerkeley.com, thank you.
Integrity first, excellence in all we do, service before self. I'm Frank Feud, I'm retired Air Force, and it's these three core values that I've carried into my personal and professional life outside of the Air Force. I currently am the Chief of Police in Bono. I've worked at the Drug Enforcement Administration, I've worked at the Sheriff's Office, and I've worked a lot of jobs in between there as a kid. But none of them mean more to me than being elected as your sheriff, because as your sheriff, I will bring service back to protect and serve.
I'm Marty Houghton. I'm married, got 3 beautiful young daughters. I'm a retired state trooper, former police chief, and also a business owner. Remember, April 21st, Marty Houghton with the sheriff.
Good afternoon. My name is John Waters, and even when we draw numbers, I end up last. I've been in Berkeley County 41 years. I left for 8 years and served in the United States Air Force. Since being back, I've been in law enforcement for the last 21 years. The past 14, I've been the leader of St. Stephen as their chief of police. Thank you for coming.
Let's depart from what I told you earlier. Give a round of applause. Okay, we're ready to start with the first round of questions, and we did have Mr. Smalls come in, so we'll do 3, 3, 4, and 4 as our groups, okay? First question to Group 1. Based on the issues in Berkeley County now, name one issue, and how do you plan to address it?
My biggest issue is manpower right now. I want to get in the county supervisor's office and not leave until he gets some more manpower so we can get the job accomplished a lot faster. That's the problem we got right now. We don't have the manpower to cover a county this big. This is the biggest county in the state. So we need more manpower.
Okay, conversation time. Good. All right, next, Chief.
I believe the biggest concerns we have right now are response times, getting to calls. It is a staffing issue, but it's also an issue that we need to restructure the agency and work more and more regions instead of being in zones. And I think our response times could get better if we regionalize our deputies. And also, we have to partner with our county supervisor and county council to get better staffing. And I think that's what we can get more staffing, response times go down, and we would serve the citizens better. Thank you.
Well, I wish you could say it was just one problem, but it ain't one problem, it's many problems. They need tasers, in-car cameras, they need to improve manpower. The only way that can be done is looking for also additional funding through grants and other ways to get revenue to add additional personnel.
Wow, okay, great, wrong time. Question 2 for group 2. This is a good one. What unique characteristics make you a better candidate than others participating in this forum?
I am a well-rounded officer. I've been through several different areas in law enforcement, from patrol to investigations to street crimes to specialized units in narcotics. Not only was I in those units, I became part of those units. I was involved with building trust with the communities. I created a program and worked with them called the STAND Project, which helped individuals become part of society. I worked with community service officers, building relationships with communities. So I've got hands-on several different areas inside these areas of law enforcement.
My name is Dan Isgett. I have 27 years with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. The Charleston County Sheriff's Office is widely believed to be one of the most professional law enforcement agencies in the Southeast, and that's where I learned to be a law enforcement officer. It's different learning with the Sheriff's Office than it is a police department or some other agency, and that's very important. But what really sets me apart is my job that I do on the side as a law enforcement consultant. I've been doing that for 10 years, and I'm an expert in that area. I go to only gold standard assessments now, and I look at every function of the Sheriff's Office, Police Department, Public Safety Agency to look at the best practices of those agencies to make sure that they're meeting the professional standards. That's what's needed in Berkeley County. You need a professional. You need someone that knows every function, not just a good cop, but somebody that knows how to administer and manage. And I'm that guy for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dwayne Lewis. Professionalism, integrity, and service to the community. Those are the things I stand for. I believe what some of the other things that set me apart is for 20 years I'm a state law enforcement agency. I'm 10 years at the rank of deputy chief for the South Carolina Public Service Authority. I have command experience. I believe that that will be very useful in the sheriff's office. I believe in reaching back to the community, restoring the public trust and confidence, and improving our response times. I also believe that we should be ethical in our professionalism that we're in. A lot of folks have doubts about law enforcement today, and I promise you one of the things that I will do is restore public trust, bring professionalism and educational opportunities to the sheriff's office. I believe that's important. Thank you.
Let me make this suggestion to the candidates when we enter this next series. Since there are so many of you, and Dwayne did this when he stood up, why don't you introduce yourself again each time you come up, just so it helps the people put a name in the face with a name. And you guys can say your name twice when you come back. Okay, third group. How would you handle a Ferguson-like event if it were to occur in your county?
Omar Brown, candidate for sheriff, brownforsheriff.org. First of all, I'm a hands-on person. I've walked the streets of Bayside and so forth and other areas of the Charleston East Side, as well as gone to Myrtle Beach to assist. The first thing that the sheriff must do is get out there on the scene in advance and start talking to the people, managing the situation to make sure that the people who are affected on both sides, because there's two victims here, understand what is going on, what has happened, and so forth, and what the necessities are. The second thing is you have to manage the officers to make sure that they're doing things in a clean, professional, timely manner, because ultimately there will be some litigation down the road, and we have to make sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and so forth. So you have to get out in front. You don't send tanks and then manage from a command center. You get out with the people on the street and be a part of it. Thank you. Omar Brown for sheriff.
Anthony Smalls. I've served Berkeley County most of my years. My 26 years was on the road. The one way you could avoid a Ferguson type situation is to get out and talk with people. You have to talk with everybody. You just can't go in one nice neighborhood and talk to the people of that one nice neighborhood. You have to get out and talk to everybody. I've served the north end of Berkeley County, and I know a lot of the people personally, and the people know me. Sometimes they have problems in the community with golf carts or four-wheelers. They would call me out. I would sit out in the area with them, and we'll wait and we'll check and see what's coming their way. But you got to get out and talk with the people. That's the main thing I stress with my officers. Get out, talk to them, treat them like they're somebody. But you know, once again, you have to do it for everybody. You just can't do it for one nice neighborhood and not do it for the rural neighborhoods.
She did that so nice.
Jerry Matthews, Mike. Anthony's right. The only way we're ever going to get the trust of the citizens back is we have to get out there. You have to know us, and we have to know you. If we get out there and do our job effectively, and we do a robust community policing effort like we should, then if something did happen, we would have plenty of partners in the community to step up with us to calm the situation down. But we can't do that from a patrol car going by around 55 or so. We got to get out there, shake hands, meet people, and start interacting with the community in a positive way. Instead of, you know, most of the time people see us in a negative way. We're there to make an arrest or something of that nature. But if we continue to meet with the community, build those trust-based relationships, if something did happen, it would be easy to contain. Thank you.
Calvin Chapman. Getting back to the Ferguson report, I read it. It's a very long report. The Attorney General and his staff did an excellent job. It comes back to communication. And I would break the county into zones or regions, and I would have the deputies assigned to those regions have forums or communication talks, just like we have right here. I'd have those deputies talking to you. You could talk to them. That way you'd see what the problems are in your neighborhood. And they could address you personally. You would know them and they would know you. And that's what I think, it's a lack of communication between the law and the citizens. And my thing is, if you can open that line of communication, you can solve a lot of problems. And you'll know what the problems are. So that would be my thing, is communication between deputies and citizens. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, Brian, good thing you're not in this this group, because of this question. Why did you not run during the general election? And I'm assuming that means the last election cycle that we had this last time around last year. So, first one up.
Glad to get this question. Robert Bender. The reason I did not run last time is I backed a different candidate. Backed him up until about, well, it was too late to get into it myself when I found out that he was not going to be the candidate I hoped for. So at that point, it was too late. I thought it was going to be another 4 years. There's no choice at that point. An election takes time, especially a general election. We were more than halfway into the primary season. There was no way to get into it at that time. Unfortunately, the events occurred in Berkeley County, and this opening came open. So 4 years came a little earlier than I expected. I'm in front of you tonight. Robert Bender.
I'm Frank Fiuta, Chief of Bono. The reason I didn't run last time, it was just a matter of circumstances. I had been thinking about running from the time before that, and I did not. Last year, everything seemed to be falling in place. I was fed up with what I observed going on within the county, and I decided to run. At that particular time, I also thought it was a calling from God. I was seeing things within my church and my experiences, and then a lady hit me head on in Moss Corner, and so I had surgery and was unable to file and run. And I thought that was my season, that was the end of it. But as we know, there was an unfortunate incident in December, and the opportunity came back around, and I'm healed, and now I'm running. Thank you.
Marty Howard. I didn't run for several reasons. One is, during that last primary that we had, I own the business. And I do law enforcement, shootings, police brutality cases in the private sector. So my business is wide open, and after talking with my wife at that time, my business was extremely busy at that time. we decided that it wasn't a good time for me to run. As the first of the year approached, we slowed down and we talked it over and thought long and hard and prayed about it, and we decided that it's time to rebuild the trust for the citizens of Berkeley County. Thank you. Marty Howland, Sheriff.
John Waters. I'm not going to shy away from what I got done last time. I supported Wayne DeWitt. I thought he was going to do the same thing these last 4 years that he did the prior 20 years. I knew Wayne DeWitt, like I told you earlier. I'm the chief of police at St. Stephen's and been there for 14 years. I never asked that man one time of anything that he didn't say. He never told me, I'll get back with you, maybe, no, it was always going to take care of it. On a professional level, that's all I knew Wayne. I didn't know him on a personal level, I knew him, but on a professional level, I had no reason to doubt that he wouldn't do the same thing that he did the first 20 years. So I'm not shying away that the reason I didn't run was because I was supporting Wayne DeWitt. Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, round of applause. First one. Second round of questioning, and we'll start with you, Chief, and y'all got to kind of help me figure out who else was to start this. I'll get confused up here before long. But here's the question for group one. What do you think the general public's biggest concern with law enforcement is?
I think it's a nationwide issue. It's about trust. I think we've lost that trust for different reasons throughout the nation. And in order to regain that trust, we've got to work together and build a partnership with our communities. And I think that's the most important thing is, I think we're better together than we are apart. And that's what I believe since I started law enforcement in '86. I think it's important that we reach out to our church leaders, reach out to our school leaders, reach out to our prosecutors, reach out to our judges, and find a way to build community-based groups so that we can reach out and make things better. I think it's trust is the biggest thing I see in law enforcement today. And I think the only way to gain it is we got to build relationships. Our deputies need to build relationships with the community they serve, and also we need, as the sheriff, needs to build relationships and be a part of everything that goes on in the community. If it's a community outing, the sheriff should be present in building that bond so that we can build that relationship back. Because I think if you build that relationship back, you'll get more involved in being an important part of your community. Thank you.
Good time.
Chad Caldwell. Chad Caldwell. Sheriff too. I think it's credibility, and I think it takes many things to get credibility back. I think the Sheriff's Department does a good job. I don't think they're bad people, but the credibility is gone. And the only way you can restore that is we don't really trust people that we don't know. So that means the deputies have to do effective community policing. They have to get out and reach the people that they serve. Thank you.
2005, I've been a lieutenant, so I've been in either a silver or blue car for the Department of Pine Shadow Drive, most of the time, Harbor Lake Drive. So I know every road in Goose Creek except for very new subdivisions. Most of these people can't say that. Most of the deputies nowadays can't say that. That's the problem. They need to come and learn the whole county. They don't. They stay in one general area, they learn that area, but it doesn't help me if I holler for help in Pine Shadow Drive. Thank you. Will Rogers.
Thank you. Okay, I got all of group one again. Group two, here's your question, and we'll be starting with Lieutenant Isby. If elected sheriff, what would be your first priority?
My name is Dan Isgett. It's been said a lot here, but I've always said that my first priority was restoring trust. Without trust from the community and the partnership with the community, you have a police state. And you can't get anything done in a police state. You can't force your way. You've got to build these partnerships. So some people will say, oh, we're going to focus on drugs. That's going to be a priority. Or we're going to focus on domestic abuse. But if you don't build trust in your community, you can't be successful in any of these areas. So I'm going to make sure through communication, starting with me, and by the way, 224-4760 is my phone number. It's on this newspaper. That was for YouTube. And everybody in Charleston County I've dealt with in community services has my personal cell phone number. That's my personal cell phone number. Communication, transparency, and holding people accountable. So if you have a complaint and you're not getting the service that you expect, I want to hear about it. Thank you.
Dwayne Lewis. My first priority will be restore the public trust and confidence in the sheriff's office. I believe as your sheriff, I should be highly visible in your community, recognized by you, and have my phone number. I've said this many times, and some of them have grabbed my idea, but I believe in you should have personal contact with your sheriff. And many businesses do that. I think it's important that you know who your sheriff is. One of the other things that I'm going to do immediately is completely evaluate the sheriff's office, each unit, each division, each position, to see what the needs are. I believe professionally that's the right thing to do. I think that once I take about a month to do that, I'll have a better understanding of where folks need to be. But one thing that's important to me is to get more deputies back on the street, in your neighborhood, and in your community, serving you the best, giving you the best quality law enforcement. Thank you. Dwayne Lewis.
Brian Adams. I've been planning this for 2.5 years. I have looked at this, I have learned it. I have one consistent thing that I've bumped into every door I knocked on, every person I talked to was they want to see more deputies and they want to have contact and communication with them. That is the first thing we need to do. We need to get more deputies on the road. We need to evaluate personnel. Let's take that knowledge and experience that's sitting at the top, let's put it on the road. Let's get them out there. Let's get them in contact with the community. Let's start building a neighborhood resource officer program where they will have a direct relationship. We do not need them to call 911 every time if they know a deputy personally. Give them that opportunity to call a deputy. Give them that opportunity to talk to a deputy directly, to shake their hand and know what they're going to do. That's important. Thank you.
I think that's two. Yes. Okay, group 3. News stories report that morale among employees is low. What specifically would you do to raise morale, and why do you believe it will work? That's not the question.
Believe me, I know about the morale thing. One thing I've learned from the military is that once a month you have commanders call. The commander tells you what he expects, what he wants you to do, and he lays down the laws, and we follow the laws. We can't have a department where only a few people meet, talk, and then they come back and say, the sheriff said he wants this. I've heard that a lot. The sheriff said this. We need the sheriff to come and tell the people. So the first thing I would do is I would make sure I keep in touch with my people, let them know what I expect of them. That way nothing gets lost in the translation. Thank you. Anthony Smalls.
Judge Chair.
I think one of the first things I do is I would establish with the deputies that I am willing to listen and that I would administer the rules fairly across the board. I think one of the things that some of the deputies feel that, and it's in every department, not just public, but the law enforcement officers feel sometimes that they're not, they're treated differently depending upon who they are and stuff of that nature. But we put the right policies in place, it'll be fair across the board, and that should bring morale up tremendously. Plus, I'll be out there with them, talking to them on a regular basis and seeing what they're doing. And they get to know me, I get to know them, just like when we get to know you guys back in the community. Thank you. Jerry Murphy.
Calvin Chap Clark. First thing I'll do is 4 audits, and that'd be financial audit, property audit, evidence audit, and a personnel audit. Because you can't know where you're going until you know where you are. But to build a morale, I would do an in-house study, statewide, with all of the county deputy sheriff's offices of equal size. And that way, we can go to county council and try to upgrade their pay. That would be a morale booster, I think, because they're probably underpaid, like most policemen and deputies across the state. So what I would do is do an in-house study at no cost to taxpayers to try to find out where we stand in Berkeley County compared to the rest of the state. And I think that would really boost morale for the deputies of Berkeley County. Thank you.
Omar Brown. One of the things to boost morale is when officers feel unappreciated and they're running and there's only 48, I understand, patrolling 200 square miles of county, then their morale begins to fall because they feel overworked. So when I take some of these fancy supervisors out of the office who spend all day there and put them out on the road and ease that burden, that's going to be the first step to building morale. When they then turn around and the sheriff is writing calls because your life matters to me. And I refuse under my watch to allow one citizen to be harmed if I can prevent it. So if I have to respond to your house, then I need to be doing so, and my entire command staff also needs to do so when your life is at risk. That will be the first step to building morale, because they will understand that you're doing what you expect them to do. And secondly, you put them in good cars and not have all the good cars parked at the Pizza Hut with the upper echelon.
All right, that's everybody in group 3, right? Let me pause for just 1 second and reach out to my question screening team. Where did y'all get to? Right up in front. I want to thank you for what you've done. I think I'm 1 question short. So if y'all have another question in the group. In fact, if you have enough questions for another round, then we might be okay on time because these guys are taking up their whole 60 seconds, which is great. You don't see that with politicians very often. All right, group 4. What do you think Sheriff DeWitt should have done after his arrest? Chief?
Frank Few, well, the first thing he should have done is went to jail, and he did that. Anytime you can make a mistake, you have to own up to it. Now, what happens after that is totally up to him. But I do believe that he should have resigned. I think he should have done it more promptly. One of the first things that are affected by that type of incident is not only the trust, as we keep talking about here, of the citizens, but the deputies' safety, the deputies, men and women that are under him. Because every arrest they make after that, every encounter they make with a person that is under the influence of alcohol, they're jeopardized because that person, obviously, their inhibitions are lowered, and they're going to say and do things they normally wouldn't do, and the first thing that's going to come to their mind is the recent boss's transgressions. So I think resigning was critical. I think he should have done it a little more timely. However, I'm not his judge. So there may have been a good reason for him not to do that. Perhaps he had to get things in order. He knew what he was going to do, so I'm not going to judge him. Just me personally is what I think should have happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Marty Howell. First of all, he shouldn't put himself in that predicament, and he shouldn't put the taxpayers in that. He shouldn't put the sheriff's office in that. However, we don't know what went through the man's mind that day, so we can't second guess that. Ultimately, I would never do it, but if I was in that position, I would go ahead and resign immediately, and I'd step down. And as your sheriff, you won't have to worry about that with me. I won't be in that predicament. Marty Howell, sheriff. Thank you.
John Waters. Man, don't be shy about blowing that whistle. You need to blow it. You know, as a good leader, we've got to also be a follower. We can't expect citizens to follow our rules if we don't. And unfortunately, that's what happened with our sheriff. The one thing that I think that Wayne did wrong that I would have done, I don't think I would have ever been sworn in. I think I'd have really had left as soon as I made that mistake. Then I would have got right with God. But being that he did get sworn in, I was kind of disappointed that he didn't do it in public, that he did it behind closed doors. We voted him in there. We had the right to see him sworn in, just like everybody else that got sworn in. So one mistake I think he made, he resigned, and we all know that was a must. He did do that, but I think he should have been sworn in public. Thank you.
The falling of a man or a woman that's dedicated their lives to a career is not something that should ever be taken lightly. Men up here on stage have dedicated their lives to what they've done, and it's not something we should applaud or be joyful in that this has happened. That being said, we've got to think of the family, we've got to think of his friends and everyone that's involved with that situation. I would have resigned. Trust was lost, faith was lost in a man, and I would not have been sworn in, certainly not in the darkness. Bob Benton.
I think that's all of group 4. Yes, round of applause again. Second round of applause. Okay, back to group 1. Chief Paul, we'll start with you. Do you plan on implementing any changes regarding employees' use of county vehicles during off-duty hours? For example, children in cruisers.
Chad Caldwell. Well, I would certainly look at the policy and make sure it reflected what the citizens expect. I don't think you should jump to a decision without seeing what the policy is. That would be my statement.
As moderator, let me say we'll follow this cycle, and that way maybe you'll need a chance to respond to whatever you're going to say.
Maybe he's seen a different paper than I have, but Chief Alec and them gave us a piece of paper that says that we get allotted $9,700, and I believe it's $10 per officer to use that car when we're off. That's what we actually take out of our pay to use that car when we're off. So that's what the county gave us a paper saying. Whether that's true or not, never been hired a lieutenant, I couldn't tell you. Maybe you can.
The reason we have off-duty vehicles that are assigned to our deputies is we like to put them in those communities so the presence of those vehicles does curtail criminal activity. Also, we ask the deputies to use their vehicle as much as we can. We have a gas consumption policy in place that requires them not to use as much of their vehicle personally. So we do everything we can to save the taxpayers money. And we do like for them not to have their children in the vehicle, but under our policy they're allowed to use their vehicle for personal use. But the great thing about it is if a bad situation occurs at night, they're readily available to have their vehicles so they can respond to that incident quickly if we had a school incident or if we had a major incident throughout the county. So thank you. Rick Allen.
Chief, I think that's all group one, yes? Like I say, y'all keep me accountable as you lose track. Dwayne, we're starting to do next, I believe, right? Group two. What would be your plan to address gang activity in Berkeley County and monitor locations of known gang members?
Thank you, Dwayne Lewis. I understand that we do have some gang issues in the county. I think that strict enforcement of the law, intelligence gathering, that we take a look at where these gangs are operating, and some of them are not really gangs, you know, like we used to see on TV. They're groups of criminal thugs, I call them. They operate mostly at night, and they roam around your neighborhoods and your businesses and conduct burglaries and criminal activity. When we have a professional detective division that's plugged into what's going on in the communities and in the neighborhoods, then we will know what's going on. But most importantly, you already know what's going on in your neighborhoods and in your communities. So if you trust me as your sheriff, and you trust my staff and the deputies that are serving you, you will be willing to come forward with that information. You'll be willing to tell that deputy when he stops at the convenience store to talk with you. Dwayne Lewis, thank you.
First we got to do is identify. Identify. How do we do that? We get into the communities. We find out where the young people are, the ones that are involved in the criminal activity. We identify them. We make their parents and their relatives or the guardians aware of what's going on. We find out who they're involved with, what they're doing. Make sure we're able to head off. We want to be one step ahead of them. If we find out something's going on, we want to be one step ahead of it. Social media is a huge thing with gang members, believe it or not. And if we're involved in social media and we watch it, we do it every day, we'll watch that social media, we get ahead of them, and we head it off, we stop it. The other thing we need to do is we have to have a retaliation protocol in place. If they go out and they shoot somebody, we have to be ready to go and stop the next shooting. That's how it works. So we have to be ready to handle those situations. Thank you, Brian Adams.
Dan Eskin, there is a gang problem in the Tri-County. We look at TV every day and there's a shooting. Almost all of them are gang related, back and forth, retaliation type shootings. It is a problem, it's a very serious problem, and it needs to be attacked. Intelligence is very important. We need to make sure, and most agencies, and I know what the Charles County Sheriff's Office does, we have a great intelligence for these people, but we've got to do something with these intelligence. We've got to target these people. There is no room for anybody in a gang in Berkeley County. we'll put them into jail. We don't want them in the neighborhoods. They get out of jail, we put them into jail again. We'll work with the solicitor and tell them this guy's a gang member, and we need to pay attention to this and make sure that he goes to jail for the time he does. So we have to focus on these gangs. You focus on those gangs, it solves our crime problem of the violence. Thank you. Dennis.
Okay, group 3. What is the biggest case you've brought to a successful conclusion? Jerry, I think we'll start with you.
Well, I worked a number of them over the years. One I can think of that I'm probably most proud of was I ran into an old lady in the hallway. She said that her son was missing and had been missing, and that she talked to other detectives in the past, and they said that they thought he had ran off. Well, I started checking, doing the basic stuff, and I just happened to catch where they missed something. So I made an arrest on an unrelated for possession of stolen goods on the person that I knew ended up with some of the stolen goods out of the house when the guy ended up missing. That led back to making an arrest on the guys who actually did the crime, and we recovered his body 9 years later. And she said that all she wanted to do was bury her son before she died, so she got to do that.
Calvin Chair Clark. What brings to mind what I did probably would be a lot of alcohol-related incidents concerning serious injury and death. Teenagers get killed more by alcohol and drug-related accidents than any other way. And I did a lot of investigations that concerned serious injury and death where alcohol was involved with minors. And the solicitor can tell you this, but it brings sadness to my heart to know we lose teenagers due to alcohol violations, drug violations, death and injury. So what I like about what I did was I brought closure to parents who lost loved ones as teenagers in regard to alcohol violations. Thank you.
Omar Brown, tough question considering, do you start with resuscitating a person from an accident or the child you pull out of a pool and resuscitate them? You give them back to the parent? Or do you take the officer who wanted to commit suicide and called you and you were able to talk him out of it? Which one is more important? Or do you talk about the gentleman who was wanted for 5 counts of attempted murder, bombings and so forth in New Jersey, who was walking around in Bayside, Charleston, and you gave them people back their peace and dignity so they're no longer in protective custody because you captured a person who was wanted, who happened to have had the keys to other citizens' homes because he got a job there with the landscaping crew and the maintenance crew. I don't know which one would be tops, but I thank God that they all had a good conclusion. Omar Brown.
Anthony Smalls. One of my first cases as a detective was a murder case. I just happened to be out on call, on another call that night when that one came out, but we were able to establish a suspect right away. I established a rapport with the suspect. Took him to get a lie detector test. He passed it with flying colors. But he was so high on crack that he didn't even realize he did it. But in the end, he told me, he said, I'll tell you what happened. And he confessed and, you know, we recorded it, cleared our case. It was a death penalty case. But, you know, establishing a rapport with him and he just went on ahead and said, okay, I'll tell you everything that happened, put it on tape, case solved.
Okay, group 4. How do you intend to use our youth to support the Sheriff's Office through the Police Cadet and Reserve Officer programs?
Thank you. Marty Housen. As I said from day one, as your sheriff, I will start a youth mentor program because our youth is our most important value for this future. If we don't educate our youth and let our youth become used to being friends with the police, and the police being friends with the youth, then we're going to lose them. So if we get out there and take religious leaders, community businessmen and women, in the sheriff's office and mentor these youth, then I think there'll be a positive role for the sheriff's office and also a positive role for our community. Thank you. Marty Hosmer, Sheriff.
And Chief John Waters. That's a great question. We was out in Alvin, and I think it was Chief Caldwell asked a question. Who in this room is raising their child to be a police officer? We have one person raising their hand. One person. We're not doing that anymore. Like I said, been at St. Stephen's for my whole life just about, but I ran the recreation department for 5 years. I was the director for 5 years. I can't remember any of the kids coming through that program that I've had to deal with through our police work. Touching our kids early, one of the things we want to do is with the cadet program, continue with that. It's a great program. We want to get in our churches and our schools and try to start helping recruit our deputies, try to get our parents to help us teach our kids it's okay to be a police officer. But the churches and the schools is where we want to start and try to help recruit our future deputies. Thank you. John Waters.
Robert Bennett. I'm not going to stand here in front of you tonight, but I'm glad to tell you that this is going to be a top tier, first primary concern in my administration. We've got a lot of big problems that directly affect our safety and security, I believe. It is going to be near the top, though. I'm glad to get a lighter question, too, by the way. The last question's been kind of dark. You're looking in front of you at a product of such a group. I believe I'm the only Eagle Scout that's sitting up here tonight, so I actually benefited from that. I believe in those programs. I firmly believe in those programs. They molded me. They caused brotherhood. They made me want to look towards brotherhood. Law enforcement, firework, EMS, military. I'm a big supporter of those. They are going to be on the top, and as I stated, we've got a lot of issues. I'm going to engage the public to get involved with those programs, but I'm going to have to actively go out and do that. As we stated already, no one seems to be raising their children to be interested in that at this time. Robert Bitten.
I understood that to be a two-part question, what we do to encourage the youth's participation in the reserve program. I'll start with the reserve program. If it's not underused, and I don't have hands-on, so I don't know, then it's certainly not advertised enough. So I plan on using the reserves extensively and recruiting reserve deputies because, again, they're from our communities, and that has an obvious benefit. As far as the youth go, we'll start using or recruiting the children by being role models. Someone else may have said that. I've said that in the last couple of forums. Putting the people out front that children want to be when they grow up. Nobody wants to be part of an organization that doesn't have a winning team. When you look at colleges as a young basketball player or football player, you don't try to go towards the losing programs. You want to go towards a winning program. So we will become a professional, maintain a professional appearance, and be something that children want to be a part of. And then we will get out and interact with the community and keep the Explorer programs going. If we don't have one, we'll certainly get one going. Thank you.
Round of applause again. Y'all are doing great on keeping to the timeline. So much so that I think we got time for another round of questions before we get to that final round where you get to choose. And we got exactly 4 more questions, so it worked out great. Thank you to our team. All right, back to group 1, back to the beginning. To restore trust within the sheriff's office, that's a good question. Are you prepared to terminate those who have given or do give the sheriff's office a black eye?
Yes, I do. I believe in giving everybody a fair chance under new leadership, but if they don't do their job, I plan on getting rid of them, without a doubt. I'm not going to take it very long at all. Will Rogers, thank you.
Rick Allen. My position would be that we have to look at each individual and make sure they're meeting the missions and goals of the agency. And if they're bringing a bad reputation to our agency and are violating our policies, I will take the appropriate action and discipline them first, and then I will terminate them if they cannot meet the goals and missions of our agency. Thank you.
Chad Caldwell. I'll hold people accountable and fire if they need to be fired.
Okay, I'm going to grab another question. During a state of emergency, whose authority will the people be responsible to in Berkeley County?
We're in a state of emergency. The sheriff is the law enforcement chief executive of the county. So he's got to make sure he has his office in place, the deputies in place, and working with the other agencies in place to provide a secure environment. So if it's for hurricanes, we make sure that they're working with the local agencies, municipalities, and make sure that everything's falling into place for them. Thank you, Brian Adams. I almost forgot my name.
Hi, Dan. That's a pretty good question. I had to work through Hugo. I don't know if the rest of these gentlemen have or not. Good God, I never want to work through another hurricane again. I have been assigned to our Emergency Operations Center for a long time, and I also was the commander of our Cobra team, which is a Seabird unit. We mitigate emergency and stuff. So it depends on what type of emergency it is who has the final authority. So I think everybody's, active shooter, if it's a law enforcement event, the sheriff's going to be in charge of that. If it's a fire emergency or something, then it's going to be the fire. But we got to just make sure that we have these partnerships with everybody in emergency services, and that we work together as a team for the citizens. Thank you.
I think the question was the state of emergency, and when we have that in the state of South Carolina, the governor is the authority in that situation. But as your sheriff, we are in a situation where we are responsible for you at the local level. I have certification in emergency management operations as a deputy chief for my agency. Anytime there is an emergency, a storm, ice storm, a hurricane, tornadoes, I respond to either the county emergency management operations or the state emergency management operations. So I do have extensive experience dealing with those situations. If you look at the flow chart when these situations occur, most of the orders come from the governor down to the local level, and it is up to the sheriff to enforce them. But number one, we should be there to protect you and make sure you're safe, and that's what I'll do. Dwayne Lewis, thank you.
That was all group 2, yes? Now we're group 3. I think Chad, we'll start with you, correct? Okay, good. I just want to be sure I got this right. This question has been presented as a yes or no question. However, I'm going to intervene and say you got a chance to, you got your 60 seconds to explain your position. Are you pro-life?
That's a good question, Mr. Nash, and I don't mind answering it. I am pro-life. I'm deep in my faith. The Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, that's who leads my life. So I'm all for pro-life, I'm all for marriage, I'm all for what the Bible says, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Thank you.
Go to Omar next. Got it.
You set me up for the drive-by. Omar Brown for sheriff. Yeah, definitely for life. I have a wife of nearly 26, 27 years, 4 lovely children, 3 adopted children. So I happen to love children. Now I got a few more seconds before the whistle. You know, I want to bring to Berkeley County Sheriff's Department responsiveness, attentiveness, and when people talk about public trust, I want to bring you back a department you can be proud of that is proactive. I guess when you look at the current situation, people don't want to admit what the problems are. We all say there's a problem. I want to help address those problems. I see the time. So I got one last number. Let me start singing. Omar Brown for sheriff.
Anthony Smalls, yes. I am pro-life, but I don't impede on other people's thoughts, and I let people live their life and I live mine. As long as they live within the law, it's fine with me. I am pro-life.
Jerry Merrithew, and yes, I'm pro-life also. I'm a Christian. I believe in, if I say I'm a Christian, I need to act like I'm a Christian. I need to do the right thing. And it's just my belief that, for me anyways, I would have to believe in pro-life and be the Christian that I'm supposed to be. That being said, everyone is weak and does things, so if you guys will be an accountability partner for me, I would certainly appreciate it. If you start to see me get off the line, push me back in there, let me know. That's the problem that happens sometimes. May even happen with the sheriff. You know, people see you start to slide down, they don't say anything to you. Next thing you know, you lose your career, and I'm sure you guys thinking of people you know right now that's happening to them. So don't be afraid to step up and tell your fellow person whenever you see them start to slide down. Thank you very much.
Okay, Jerry, that goes back to me. Okay, last question of our official question. You'll be thinking about the one you want to answer in the last round. This one asks you to answer on a scale of 1 to 10, but you'll have your 60 seconds to explain your position as police chief. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, where are your priorities for helping and taking care of the detention center? Glad that question got in there.
Again, John Waters. That's number 10, without a doubt. We've until I'm not going to sit here and answer and tell you what the problems and the solutions to it is, because I don't know until I get in there and can see. But we all know that we've had a part of that jail that hasn't been operating. I'm sure it's because of funds. We've got to find a way. We are turning too many criminals back on the street. We sentenced an individual for 30 days. They're spending 15 days in jail for a 30-day sentence. They're getting out because they don't have the room. They're turning them loose left and right. So our jail, I can't answer why we haven't to this point. But next year, if I can promise you, that is definitely one of the things we have to address. We've got to figure out how we can make it. If we turn them loose because we don't have the room, then we've got to figure out how we can get that other portion open. Thank you.
Goes to Bob.
Thank you, Robert Bender. I believe I'm the only candidate in front of you that has jail experience, correction experience. That's a big part. That's huge. That's half the sheriff's job. It's divided down the center. So if I'm applying to work as the sheriff on your behalf, I've got that covered. I've covered, while I'm being employed as a corrections officer, detention officer, I've handled every aspect of the jail that there is. If you want to increase morale in the detention facility, you need a sheriff that's been there. That's what you need. You need someone who's been there. These men and women are stuck behind concrete and steel 12 hours a day. When they're looking for a solution, when they find a problem, they're looking to a sheriff that can give them that answer to that problem. Someone who's been there. It's priority. It's number 10. Robert Bender.
Chair, just to make sure I understood, 10 was the highest priority?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, it'd probably be an 8 or 9 for me then. There's a lot of important things to be done at the sheriff's office. The detention center certainly is at the highest. As Brother Candace said, working there is critical. During my 2 tours as a correctional custody administrator in the military, I saw firsthand the importance of having an efficient corrections and detention operation. So it's critical. It has to be evaluated, but more importantly, it's a waste of taxpayer money as it sits right now, as I understand it. But I don't want to talk to the judge too much until I get in and evaluate it. But getting the same information that you're getting, it looks like it's wasting our money right now. So it is a pretty high priority of mine. Thank you. Frank Few.
Marty Howell. As your sheriff, you need to make sure that you take care of that jail. That jail has been built for some 7 years right now, maybe 8. They just got overtime for the officers. But if a good administrator and a good leader has a budget of a 1-year, a 3-year, a 5-year, and a 10-year plan, then you can put personnel in place to that budget. You have to work with your county council members and your supervisor to make sure you have the personnel to get this done. If you, as your sheriff, I would be a great leader and make sure that the personnel happen. If you cannot afford to hire 25 officers at one time to staff that jail for the next floor. So you need to move and make sure that you're adding personnel each year and overstaff the first floor, so then when you got the room for the second floor. Marty Howell, Sheriff, thank you.
That takes us through,
I give that time.
no, you got it. Let's give him a round of applause. now getting on to entering our last round of questions. This is when you get to choose which question you would like to answer based on what was asked in one of the other three groups. I've got the questions up here. I've got them segregated by groups. I think now we're Chief Olive, correct? I think they're in the sequence to go next. What question would you like to answer? I'll go ahead and reread the question. Okay, the morale question. I remember that? What you're going to do about the morale. Very good.
Rick Olive. Morale is an important part of the function of the Sheriff's Office. I can truly tell you in the last 6 to 8 years, public safety has not been the forefront of Berkeley County. It's been other things that monies have gone to. The deputies, in order to get better morale, you've got to raise the salary. I didn't join this business for the lifestyles of rich and famous. Because if you get in this profession, it's probably one of the lowest paid professions. You've got to work toward getting them better equipment. You've got to work toward getting better equipment that they feel better about. The one thing about it is, I do know for a fact, it don't take a lot of money, a good pat on the back, and appreciating the job they do gets them to move mountains. And I really believe that. And I believe partnerships that we need to create, when they make a case, they need to partner with the prosecutor. They need to partner and take pride in it. And I think if you get their salaries better, we're getting ready to get time and a half overtime for our deputies, just like they did for the jail. At the jail, for instance, there was 18 openings in the last year and a half. We have 0 now. I'm proud of that. Thank you.
Gang question.
I'm Chief Caldwell. I'd like to answer the gang question because I think that's really important. And I think I've kind of missed the mark here tonight. Our first line of defense with the gangs is obviously parents. The second line of defense is obviously SROs. But if we don't do something to be proactive with saving our kids, that's a bad mistake, because what happens with kids is like drug addicts. By the time you find out they're a drug addict, they've been taking drugs for 5 years. Dealing with gangs is critical, and it's critical in this county. As your sheriff, I'll do something about the gangs in Berkeley County. Thank you.
When I started here in...
Which question?
The jail.
The jail question.
When I started here in January 1st, 1991, we had 410 prisoners in the jailhouse. When I came on leave to run for sheriff, we had 407. So that's 3 less since 1991. So it's not an overcrowded issue. We have more jail, we need more prisoners, and they are sending them out 20 days, not 15, on 30, just to get them so they're not a taxpayer issue. The taxpayers don't want to keep them there because it costs the taxpayer more money. So it's not the sheriff's department kicking them out, it's actually the supervisor telling us to get rid of them. So that's the issue with the jail. There's a whole lot of jail we can staff, a whole lot more we can fill up if we can get prisoners to fill them.
Lieutenant Isgett, next. What question would you like? The Ferguson question.
Actually, I want to address every question, so I will stay here as long as I need to answer every question from any of y'all, so feel free to stay and ask me those. But I wanted to address Ferguson because I believe an incident we had at the Charleston County Sheriff's Office is the way to handle that kind of incident. We had an officer-involved shooting involving a minority person that was shot by non-minority deputies. What we have to do is get away from this old school idea of saying this is a ongoing investigation and we cannot give you any information right now. You got to give them something, or the news is going to go to somebody that's not telling the truth. So you got to show up and say, you got to take the people that's involved and get them out of there so there's not agitating. And then we had a person at the scene that was yelling and causing a lot of problems. And we went over and addressed him. Now, did we knock the heck out of him? No. We talked to him and showed him respect and solved that issue. So I'll talk some more about that. Thank you. Dan is it.
Okay. Dwayne, what question do you have?
It was number 13, restore the trust.
Restoring the trust.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been at this campaign for a while. It's been fairly grueling. I've knocked on a lot of doors in your neighborhoods and communities, and folks tell me that they have an issue with public trust and confidence. I keep hearing that theme. It's part of my campaign from the beginning. I felt like it was a very important issue to the public and the voters. And some of the things that I will do for, with that issue is, and I've said this many times, when your sheriff is highly visible in the community, when you know who he is and you trust him and you trust the decision he makes, and we build a relationship with each other, then we can solve almost any problem in our community. There's a lot of communities that come together for different causes, different events. Why can't we come together to solve our crime problem? Because I've said it before, you know what's going on. And it's Dwayne Lewis for sheriff.
I think we've got Lieutenant Adams next, and then we'll go to the next one. Your question.
The youth and the reserve program.
The youth and the reserve program question.
Brian Adams. Like I said earlier, one of my big things is I want to get back out into the community, start working with the youth. We need to get back into there, and what we can do is we can build up the Explore program. We can start working with them and start working with like an athletic program to those who are unable to maybe afford the athletic program or something. We can start building that. Give them something to do to get them off the streets. At the same time, what we can do is we can utilize these young people and start getting them ready to come into a citizen service program or something where they can get in there and start serving the county before they hit 21. Maybe what that'll do is that'll open their eye. Maybe they'll become our future deputies, our future law enforcement officers. The reserve program, also on the young people, we need to start building a response to where we can give them a different direction, help them with drug rehabilitation. That the reserve program, we need to use them to support our deputies throughout the county and also with other events without the county. Thank you very much, Brian Adams.
Good. Now you're itching to go. Mr. Brown, what's your question?
I think you have to have general concerns of law enforcement.
General concerns of law enforcement, something along. Now you're going to challenge me if I got to find the exact question. Do you know which group it was? Which group answered it? The first group. Okay. What do you think the general public's biggest concern with law enforcement is? Is that the one? Yes, very good.
Omar Brown for sheriff. One of the biggest concerns I think the general public has with law enforcement is if you see an officer sitting at a bar drinking, you know that officer is going to go home and he's going to drive. And then you get the feeling that officer feels like he's better than you because if you drink and drive, you're going to jail. That breaks down public trust. If you see an officer in a fight in the bar or anywhere else, you expect him to be dealt with just like you. And one of the things I think that Good Old Boys Club has developed is they're above the public. Officers work for the public. Officers are public servants. If you violate the public's trust, if you violate the law, you should be held accountable. If you're a murderer, a liar, a thief, a sex offender, then you should go to jail. You should not get special treatment, preferential treatment. Justice is for all. Omar Brown, Sheriff.
Amen. Which question would you like to ask? Either one. You got the microphone. Which one do you want?
Yes. Anthony Small. Trust.
Restoring trust?
Yeah. An employee. Well, I think it won't. Would you terminate an employee?
Okay, what about terminating the employees to restore trust? Okay, yes.
I think it's imperative that when we have a problem, not to let that problem fester, because when a problem festers, it usually costs the taxpayers money, and it usually causes embarrassment to the department. So what I would do is address every problem that comes up with the employees. But because I've seen employees hang around until they create a big problem for the department and the taxpayers. So my thing would deal with problems promptly.
Thank you. Jerry, question?
Restoring trust.
Restoring the trust of the agency, yes.
My name is Jerry Merrithew. I've had a lot of time to think about this. While I was overseas, I started planning, but I was planning to run 4 years from now. I had no idea it was going to come up, and I had to settle and start going. One of the things that one of the first things I would do is I would put the full budget online. You can see everything that we're spending, every penny. Right now there's a budget online that tells you how much money we get. That's fine, but they don't tell you where it goes. You need to know where every penny goes. And put as much stuff online as possible so that you guys will know what's going on in the sheriff's office. That's one of the first things I do. The next thing I do is, once we get our people out in the community, I think it'll start building itself. We'll have to work it, but it'll start building itself. I'll try to come to every meeting that I can so that I can make sure that you guys know me personally, and I know you. Thank you very much.
Question? Response time. Is that one question? Okay, we'll give it to you. What do you think about the response time?
Yeah, during my travels around the county, the average response time was 45 minutes. If you or your family need help, you need it now, especially in a real emergency. Somebody breaking in your house in the middle of the night, you need help now. Not 45 minutes, you'd be dead. So what I want to do is break the county into zones, assign deputies to those zones, and then put GPS trackers on those cars and incorporate it with the dispatch system. That way they can address your need and put the closest deputy en route to you. It makes common sense to do that. Why not do it? So what I want to do is decrease those response times, because in a real emergency, you are in trouble. You need help as quickly as you can get it. Not 45 minutes later, not 30 minutes later, now. As soon as the deputy can get to you. So that's what I would do. Reduce the response times to provide safety for you and your families. Thank you.
Thank you. My favorite quote is, when seconds count, the police are just minutes away. Robert, question. What makes you stand out? Among all the other candidates, what makes you stand out?
What makes me stand out? Robert Bittner. I am truly the most diverse candidate that's standing in front of you tonight. I don't have the most time. I do not have the most time. My time has been diverse. I am involved with the federal government right now. I have been so for 5 years. I manage that relationship between the Charleston County Sheriff's Office and the Department of Homeland Security. I'm the only candidate, as I mentioned, that has detention experience. I think it's important that our sheriff has a background in politics. We're going to be working a lot, from what I understand, with not just Ms. Wilson at the solicitor's office to get this ship righted, but also county council, county supervisor. I have that experience. We're going to need that to work on the budget. That's all. Probably.
Chief, your question is?
Sure. Could you read the question about Ferguson again, please?
Do you remember which group here it is reading? How would you handle a Ferguson-like event if it were to occur in your county?
By Ferguson-like event, I'm not really sure which part whoever submitted that question. There were several events, so I'll address the most important one, I think, is, and that's preventing it. There were a lot of issues, if you read the Ferguson report, with Ferguson. One of the worst ones, obviously, was the department itself. It was let go, and they got to a point where they were treating the public extremely poorly. But beyond that, even the young man who lost his life, Michael Brown, a lot of people watched the videos before the shooting and said, well, he was aggressive towards the shopkeeper. But my question, as it relates to Berkeley County, is where was the law enforcement community in that man's life before he got to that point? Did anyone ever make an attempt to address him, talk to him, mentor him? And that's what we have to do before it gets to that point. And secondly, to address the Ferguson issue, is body cameras, in-car cameras. We will get those, and that's one of my first priorities. Thank you. Thank you.
And Marty, your question? Ferguson. Ferguson question.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't read the Ferguson report, read it, because it breaks down to what I've talked about on the campaign trail, is leadership. It started at the top. The leaders turned that police department into a revenue-based department. They started off one time at $1 million in revenue from writing tickets and locking people up. When the incident happened, they were up to $3 million. So your leaders are telling your officers to go out there and lock up everybody for anything and everything. Bring us revenue so we can buy stuff, so we can hire people. And they only hired, they had, I believe it was 54 officers, and only 4 of them were bought. They lost the trust of that whole entire community. So they had to, that leader had to build that trust back from the start. And if you didn't have the proper leadership, then you had nothing down below you. So read that report, and as your sheriff, I will be the leader that will make sure that that incident don't happen, as far as turn it into a revenue base. Thank you. Marty Howell.
Chief, question?
Well, I'm last again, and I'm okay being last here, just not on April 21st. So I'm going to do the Ferguson one also. Could you read it, Sheriff?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
How would you handle a Ferguson-like event if it were to occur in your county?
We, what you don't realize, we actually had one a couple years back, just outside of my town, but the father of the individual that got shot was a citizen of mine. He made several calls to the Sheriff's Department threatening to shoot and kill a deputy. He threatened to have a riot, threatened to have the aftermath that they had in Ferguson. When it finally came down to it, he told me the only person he would speak to and talk to was Chief Waters. I reached out to him and his wife. They came to my office. We sat down. After about 3 hours of talking, we hugged each other, we prayed. He asked me to call the Sheriff's Department, apologize for the phone calls that he made. He promises there wouldn't be any issues. There wasn't. And that's all because of the trust that I've had in my citizens. I don't ask you to just believe me. I challenge any of y'all to go to my town and ask any citizen what the trust and faith we have in each other. You have to, we have to have that in law enforcement. Thank you. John Waters.
Thank you, Chief. Round of applause for that last round of questions. Now we're in the final phase. For each candidate, we'll have a 15-second opportunity to give closing remarks. Chief, we are going to hold you to last again so that we don't have the first and the last word from the same person. You get the last word. In this case, I think it's to your advantage. Will, you're up first.
For the last 25 years I've been out here, I've seen the problems. As a lieutenant, I had no way to fix them. Now I'm running for the office to fix them. You give me that chance, I welcome any of you to get in my vehicle or I be, and you can see what goes on in Berkeley County any night you wish. If I don't get elected sheriff and I get to stay, you're still welcome to ride my
Rick Allen, current chief deputy in the sheriff's office. I've been there 28 years, my entire life. There's no learning curve for me. I can lead this agency from day one. I understand every facet of the agency. I understand every part of the agency. So there will be no problem in walking, there will be no transition. I'll start from day one, making the changes necessary to make this county a better and safer place. And remember one thing, this office doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you, the citizens. I'm asking you to vote for me on April the 21st to be your leader. If I can't be your leader to your satisfaction, that's why we have elections. But I can tell you, given the opportunity, I will change the face of this county, and I will show you that community matters and partnership is what it takes to make this a better place. Thank you.
I'm Chad Caldwell. Given the opportunity, I'll restore the trust back in the sheriff's office. I've got 40 years of experience, and I like to look at it as success. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you tonight.
I want to thank you all again. My name is Brian Adams. I'm looking forward to your support. I've been doing this for about 2.5 years now, and I have been excited and saw all the changes that I thought that needed to be done so the sheriff's office could start better serving all of us. I want to start getting more deputies to the road. I want to start working with the communities. I want to start looking at wasteful spending and start putting it back in so we can start utilizing the money good. Thank you again for your support. Brian Adams.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan Isgett, and I've been out in the community and I've heard you. You want change, you want a professional, you want someone that's an expert that knows what they're doing. And I'm here to tell you that you are going to have a sheriff's office that you're going to be very proud of. I'm going to promote the good things that we do, and there will be abundance of them. And you will be proud again for your sheriff. And I will make you this one promise, that I will never do anything to embarrass you or Berkeley County. Dan Isgett for sheriff.
Thank you, Dwayne Lewis. As I said, it's a short couple seconds here, but restoring public trust and confidence, promoting professionalism, and I believe the leadership plays a major role in the whole operations of the sheriff's office. And trust and confidence, you have to trust your sheriff, and I believe that you will trust me when you see me in your community. You'll see me involved, and we will get more deputies on the road. We will be very conservative with our spending. We will watch what we do every day to serve you better. I asked for your vote. You cared. You came out here tonight, and I really appreciate it. I ask you to vote for me on April 21st, Dwayne Lewis. Thank you so much.
Omar Brown for sheriff. As your sheriff, I will not allow deputies to drive down the road and leave you stranded on the side of the road. Every deputy will stop and assist the motorist. As your sheriff, you will not have to wait for the highway patrol to work an accident that we should be competent and capable to do. We will do that, get you back underway. As your sheriff, I will set up functional satellite stations in the rural areas, which will be staffed by the current lieutenants who are chilling or sitting in the station for their day. I will let them sit out there and work from 2 to 10, so that when you get off from work, you can go to that station, get your accident reports, get your police reports, and have some accountability. The other thing is, I will take the officers who are currently in the station, most of them can be out on the road serving the public, and we will gain your trust. I will make the Berkeley County Sheriff's Department, with your help, a department that the state will take notice of. Thank you. I ask for your support. Omar Brown for sheriff. Thank you.
Anthony Smalls, as a leader for Berkeley County Sheriff's Office, I will do that. I will lead. I don't play politics. I don't play good old boy. I don't play friends and buddies. If someone comes to the Sheriff's Department wanting a job, if they don't meet the qualifications, they don't get the job. So if you have a lazy son that's sitting around the house, don't send him to the Sheriff's Department, because I don't do political favors. You know, I'm for everybody. I'm for the county, and I'll provide that leadership. I don't play politics. Anthony Smalls.
Jerry Merrithew. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want a whole lot of new programs. I just want to take what we got and put it into the community. Traditionally, most police departments are shaped like a pyramid. We just need to take that pyramid and flatten it out and spread those people across the county. That doesn't mean you have to lose rank. That doesn't mean any of that type of stuff. But what it does mean is everybody's out there pushing and pulling together. And that's what I want to do. I want to prove to you that I can use every dollar and every man to its fullest extent. And even when we did that, and we can't get the job done for some reason, at least you will know that we've done our best and that we need more than what we currently have. But I will prove to you, I'll take what we have now and use it to the fullest extent. You'll be able to check it online, you'll be able to see it. Jerry Merrithew for sheriff.com, please check it out. You'll see my full page on there. And I'd like you to vote on the 21st. Thank you.
Calvin Chad Clark. I want you to do your research on all the candidates. I'm proud of my reputation because I'm running on it. I've got 29 years at the state level at the most well-respected law enforcement agency in South Carolina. I want to restore the public trust. I want to rebuild the confidence level in the sheriff's office. But more so, I want to serve the people of Berkeley County. I think they demand better, and they need better, and they will get better if we vote for a change. So that would be my platform, is working together, we can rebuild the confidence level in the sheriff's office, where it will enable the citizens and the deputies to have better communication and have better law enforcement across Berkeley County. So let me bring my 29 years of professional leadership to Berkeley County so we can serve the public in a better fashion. Thank you.
Robert Bender. Do you want a candidate that has energy and charisma to get the job done? Do you want a candidate that's not at the tail end of his career? Do you want a candidate that understands the various aspects of the sheriff's office? I'm your candidate. Do you want a candidate that knows how to work not just intra-agency, but inter-agency between the coroner's office, the solicitor's office, county council? I'm your candidate. I'm going to be your candidate if you want that man that's up there in the middle of the night trying to problem solve. It's up first thing in the morning, has the energy to get the job done. There's not been a project I've ever touched in the last 15 years that has not turned to gold. Make that next project Berkeley County. Robert Bender.
As Berkeley County's next sheriff, I will bring 30 years of law enforcement experience. Over 25 of that have been in a leadership position of some type or another. foster an environment that will have an agency where both the citizens and the deputies can be proud of it. Integrity first, excellence in all we do, service before self will not be a motto. It will be who we are. Thank you.
Marty Houghton. I bring more than anybody else to this table. I'm a retired state trooper, former police chief, and I've actually got the business experience. I currently own my own business. So I know the aspects of how to run a business, how to be a leadership in law enforcement. And as your sheriff, it's going to take more than that. And who can say no to those 3 girls back there? Marty Houghton for sheriff.
Chief John Waters. Will, if I'm the next sheriff, you've got a job. That's a good deputy right there. Our sheriff's department's not broke. I tell you, we've lost the way. They really have. I don't know what happened to our leadership at the sheriff's department. Disappointed in it after traveling around talking to our citizens. Highly disappointed. I'm not the most educated man in this race. I'm probably not the smartest one, by no means, but I am the best leader. And you can check by me with what I've done at St. Stephen's. It's easy to, when he says check the candidates, I challenge you to do that. A leader is what we need in Berkeley County. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think you'd ask for a better group of professional, honorable men to stand up here and represent themselves before you, their careers and their reputation. Let's give them a huge round of applause. For once, I'm glad I don't live in Berkeley County because I'd hate to have to make a choice. You have a big choice ahead of you. I would encourage you to continue to vet these candidates if you have not made your decision already. If you have made your decision already, then stand behind your candidate and support them as they go through this very difficult time of the last days and weeks of this campaign. Let me make one announcement, and that is that there is at least one more opportunity. I think you'll have a breakfast forum at the Berkeley County GOP breakfast. Is that correct? This Saturday morning at
The American
Legion at 8:30 on Saturday morning. You have that opportunity. We also have another opportunity on April 11th. That's the following Saturday, which is the Low Country Conservative GOP Breakfast Club. Meets at Kelly's Barbecue, Highway 78 in Ladson, 9 o'clock the following Saturday morning. And we're going to do a very similar format to what you saw here today with the candidates to allow them. I'll be moderating that one as well. So please come. And we'll be doing that as well for those of you that can come. Bill, are there any final comments before we conclude tonight?
Yeah, this is probably one of the best forums that I've seen on one. And I personally would like you guys to respond to what you thought about big email, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we're dismissed. Thank you again for the candidates.